All right, challenge. Let's get this video out within 5 hours. We could do that. Yeah, we could do that easy. Hi, this is Moto. Today I'm going to be talking about Kendrick Lamar's The Heart Part 5, the day before his new album comes out, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. And by the day before, I of course mean about 5 hours before it drops. The Heart Part 5 came out 3 days ago, which in internet times is about a year ago. But there's a lot of stuff I picked up on it, and it took me some time to really digest, so I wanted to go over with you guys. So it starts from a quote from Oklama being the new alias of Kendrick Lamar. It is, "I am all of us." This is interesting because normally someone would say, "I am all of us" with no period in the middle. One thing Kendrick loves to do is, instead of preaching to people about what they should do with their lives, in his music he takes on their perspectives. So when he's talking about like a young woman who gets dragged into the sex work that she doesn't actually want to do, instead of talking from like a third person perspective and telling her, "Hey, this isn't the life you want, this is how you get out of it, this is what you need to do," he would take that perspective and become her, So I believe that has to do with what this album is going to be about. In one of his songs that leaked last year called The Prayer, Kendrick was taking the perspective of pieces of media that were created by controversial figures. So he took the perspective of songs by Michael Jackson. He took the perspective of the "I Have a Dream" speech by Martin Luther King Jr. So I expect there to be a lot more of that on the album. Kendrick taking on different perspectives, telling other people's stories, and really just trying to understand and meet people where they're at. It is also interesting that visually this is very reminiscent of Damn. I don't know if that's just a coincidence, but the red color of the background and also the white t-shirt, it's basically the same color palette as Damn. The only thing really different is how long Kendrick's hair is and also the bandana he has on. At the very beginning of the video, Kendrick looks like he's holding himself and very shut in. He almost looks afraid to say what he's gonna say. We've all been talking about how Kendrick hasn't dropped a solo album in 5 years, and how even after that he hasn't been releasing a lot of verses or anything else. We all assumed it was because he was cooking up something amazing, which I'm sure he's been doing. But also, this brings into my mind, maybe he was a little bit afraid of making music. Maybe there was stuff he wanted to say, but he just didn't know how to say it yet. Which I think is pretty much the point of this song, and I'm gonna take a wild guess to say that's probably gonna be the point of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. It's gonna be like, listen, I gotta tell y'all some shit, and you're not gonna like it, but I hope you still fuck with me after. I come from a generation of pain where murder is minor, rebellious and Margellus look chippy for designer. Belt buckles and clout, overzealous if prone to violence. Make the wrong turn, be it the will or the wheel alignment. Absolutely love this first line. Make the wrong turn, as in making the wrong turn, making the wrong choices, making the wrong decisions, or the wheel alignment, literally by accident entering the wrong hood, entering the wrong city, entering the wrong street. Desensitized, I vandalized pain, covered up in camouflage, get used to hearing Arsenal rain. Growing up with this environment, he couldn't stay sensitive to it. He had to cover it up. He had to pretend like it was normal. He had to be okay with it in a way. And now that he's in a position where he doesn't have to be around this all the time, he's realizing how much that truly affected him. It's like he said on Fear, "I'll probably die because that's what you do when you're 17. Even on the song Fear, where he's talking about all of the things that make him afraid, he comes off as nonchalant, like, "Yeah, that should probably kill me. That'll probably kill me." It kind of just is what it is. Analyze, risk your life, take the charge. Homies done fucked your baby mama once you hit the yard. That's culture. And this is the first point in the song where Kendrick mentions the culture. Now, what culture he's talking about specifically is a little up to debate. Is he talking about hood culture? Is he talking about black culture? Is he talking about hip-hop culture? I think that's something that's left ambiguous. And now after this verse talking very frankly about what the culture is like, he goes to the hook where he repeats, I want, and then sings out, "But I want you to want me too. I want the hood to want me back. Look what I've done for you, look what I've done for you." I'm gonna cut more into the chorus a little bit later once we get past the second verse, because I think from that point on, the chorus really takes on this really powerful meaning. In this verse, he shifts his face to different celebrities. First OJ Simpson, and then Kanye West, and then Jussie Smollett, and then Will Smith. Obviously, there's been a shit ton of discourse about those people and those faces and what they represent individually. One thing I haven't seen a lot of people mention is the fact that all four of them, to one extent or another, have been kind of considered as sellouts or had gone soft or things like that. Before, the murder trial for OJ Simpson, he had basically almost denounced his blackness to be accepted by white America. Kanye West famously came out as pro-Trump, said some really weird things about slavery and black culture that were taken, not great by a lot of people in the culture. Jussie Smollett faked a hate crime and tried to hide behind his race and his sexuality, basically just to use the culture to get further in his career. And Will Smith, while not necessarily a sellout, is seen as someone who had gone soft because of all the stuff that happened to him. Even before the Oscars issue, with everything that happened with August and Jada Pinkett Smith, he had almost become a laughingstock in the black culture. And then when you take into consideration the Oscar thing, the Oscar thing, to a lot of people in the culture, it wasn't seen so much as him entering back into black culture, but him trying to force himself back into it by playing on stereotypes of bravado and hyper-masculinity. He's done songs before in the past talking about how he doesn't feel like people think he's black enough and how he feels like he shouldn't have to put on a gangster persona in order to be respected by the black community. And when you take these things into account, these are four people who want the culture to love them. OJ Simpson, when he was standing trial, he famously ran back to the black community trying to get support from the culture after he had rejected being part of it. Kanye West obviously still has love from a lot of black fans, but he alienated a lot of people in the culture. Jussie Smollett's actions alienated a lot of people in the culture. And what Kendrick is trying to say is, I want to say stuff to you, but I'm afraid this is how you'll see me if I do. I want to tell the culture, black culture, hip-hop culture, the things that are wrong, but I'm afraid of how you'll see me. I'm afraid of how you're gonna take it. In the land where hurt people hurt more people, fuck calling it culture. He's basically saying there's a lot of negative things that are part of hip-hop culture, that are part of black culture, and I don't want these things to be associated with the culture. Fuck calling it culture. Before the third verse, Kendrick says take the drums out, at which point the drums are taken out and all you hear are bass line and some percussion. In the third verse, he takes this perspective of Kobe Bryant and Nipsey Hussle, two people who are loved and respected by the culture, but were taken away very young. In this verse, he talks from the perspective of Nipsey Hussle, saying how he wants his legacy to be remembered, how he wants people in his city to not give up on trying to help in the city, and how he forgives his killer. One thing that was said a lot by rap artists once Nipsey was killed was, don't go back to your city. Do not go back to your city. Do not try to help in your city. And Kendrick is saying, I understand that because of the culture, this is something that's possible, but I don't want the takeaway of my death to be, don't try to help these kids that need it. Don't try to help all these people that need it, because they still need it. They still need you. One interesting fact is the two people that are shown in the third verse have both passed away, while everyone else in the second verse are still alive. It's almost like Kendrick is saying, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain. That's why Kendrick is so apprehensive at the beginning. Doesn't want to be rejected for the culture for what he thinks. However, he knows that he has to say certain things because he has a certain influence that other people don't have. So will he be rejected for what he has to say? Will he be rejected for trying to basically preach to his city and other cities about how he feels will be best ways to move forward? Kendrick has historically seen himself as something of a savior, and I don't think it's a role he takes on from a point of pride, but I think he just looks around and he personally sees like there's not a lot of artists that are on his level that also have the kind of lyrical skill he has, the kind of reach he has, and also are able to speak about current events and politics in a way where he's still able to reach a large amount of people. You know, for most people, you can be a political rapper or a popular rapper, but you can't be both. And Kendrick Lamar has been able to ride that wave while still remaining relevant and still reaching people. I've heard people talking about the possibility that Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is actually an album showing off a bunch of artists either from TDE or artists from PG Lang. I don't know how possible that would be, but it would make sense in this context. It is very possible that Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers are maybe Kendrick's version of Jesus and the Disciples. Mr. Morale could be either physical, spiritual morale, someone who brings you up, but also morals, someone who teaches you life lessons and how to get through life. And the Big Steppers are the people that follow him. So my call would be Mr. Morale is him as the savior, and the Big Steppers are his disciples. This makes me excited and worried about Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers because this track, I love it. I love it so much. However, if my predictions are true, he might drop some of the more storytelling aspects to just straight up say, this is what's going on and this is what you need to do. Knowing Kendrick, I doubt that he'll be that forward, but it sounds like at this point, he feels like he needs to almost go back to the people and, you know, preach to them. You know, you see on the album cover, he has the crown of thorns from when Jesus was crucified. To me, that says this is him post-crucifixion coming back to say, to tell the world what they need to hear, whether they like it or not. But his question is, if I tell you what you need to hear, even if you don't want it, will you still want me? I guess we're gonna find out tonight. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all of that algorithmically helpful stuff. With YouTube, they really want you interacting with the video. So, you know, please, if you watched it, like it. If you watched it, comment and subscribe. The more you interact, the better it will do, and the more I'll be able to make videos like this. Thank you, and I'll see you around.